Good evening, all the members present here. I would like to welcome you to today's ProDev Hour, the 6th of November, 2025. Let us pray. God, our loving Father, we thank you very much for this great day you have granted unto us. We thank you for giving us the life. We put the presenter of today in your hand. May all that we shall share in this meeting be of great benefit to all of us. I pray, believing and trusting you have heard us through Christ our Lord. Amen. Members, you're most welcome to today's ProDev Hour. It is a great day again today when we come to internalize on how we can make best lesson preparation in this competency-based curriculum. We know that in competence-based curriculum, it is activity-based. Many of us have had opportunities to attend trainings organized by NCDC, and we have appreciated some of the methodologies we can use to organize for activities to make a very good learning outcome. And today we are blessed. For some of us who did not have the opportunity or we had attended and did not understand quite well, today we have the opportunity to have one of the specialists with NCDC, Mr. Jude Agaba. I would like to welcome him greatly to this forum, which is organized by Uganda Professional Science Teachers Union. Mr. Jude Agaba is a biology specialist. We have enjoyed much of his fruits. He has a lot of talent, skills that I'm very sure in this presentation we are all going to enjoy. Today's moderator is Madam Betty Auma. I am the National Secretary for Education, Professional Standards and Discipline with Uganda Professional Science Teachers Union. Mr. Jude, I would like to welcome you at this time, and I ask you to take over the floor. I've just made a brief introduction, but you can make a detailed introduction of yourself. You're most welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Betty. I am very glad to be here to join UPSTU in promoting the teaching and learning in the new lower secondary competence-based curriculum. As I'd been introduced, my name is Joseph Jude Agaba. I'm a curriculum specialist at National Curriculum Development Center, and my subject of specialization is biology. But for this training, I'll try and use different concepts in science, since I would believe most of the people here are science teachers, although if there are any others from other disciplines, they are welcome and they will surely attend. Can I go ahead and start my presentation, Betty?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Allow me to just... I'm going to share my screen. Are you able to view my screen, members?
Yes, please. The screen is being seen.
Thank you very much. So our presentation is on designing competence-based lesson activities, integrating DEAA approaches. In a competence-based lesson, there are a number of things that are involved, but for today's presentation, I'll zero down particularly on DEAA. But we might want to ask ourselves why are we doing this? Of course, all of us are aware that our lower secondary curriculum emphasizes competence-based learning, and this also goes ahead to our upper secondary level. We need to train our learners to think, explore, and connect science to reality. Here I'm using science, but it can be any other subject, could be humanities, vocation, or languages. Then generally there's a shift from the teacher passing on the information, telling the learners what to do, asking the questions. We're moving towards the learner-centeredness, where the role of the teacher is just facilitating. So our acronym DEAA, for those who might not know, stands for Discovery, Explain, Apply, and Analyze. These words or phrase apply to the learner specifically. So it is the learner who is discovering, it is the learner who is explaining, it is the learner who is applying their knowledge, and the learner analyzing. Why were those chosen? Because they are the core of what you'd call a learner-centered lesson. But also, if our learners are to be competent, and that means if they are going to acquire the certain skills, knowledge, understanding, values, and attitudes that we expect of them, if they go through all those phases within a lesson, and they do that over and over again, then we'll be able to know that these learners have become competent, and we can tell whether they have the skills and values that we expect of them. So when we're going through those phases, teachers can have this information at the back of your mind. In the discovery phase, what do the learners observe or notice? What are they observing or notice? That would be a quick question. It can be a statement, as we'll see later. And what is the role in this phase? The learners are expected to explore, they're expected to investigate, they predict. So that means when you develop a lesson and it has the discovery phase, these learners are supposed to explore, investigate, find out something that they don't know. Then what is the teacher's role? Sorry, just a minute. The teacher's role is to create curiosity and provide the materials necessary for this to happen. In the explanation phase, the learner should be asking themselves, what can we make sense of this activity? And how do they do that? Their role is to discuss, carry out some arguments, reasoning, connect the information to prior knowledge. In the competence-based curriculum, we build on the existing knowledge. And so whatever knowledge they have from their homes, from previous experiences, they need to build on it and explain it. The role of the teacher is to guide the conceptual understanding. That means as these learners are trying to understand the certain concepts, that is the role of the teacher. Then in application, we need to ask ourselves, this knowledge that we've learned, how can we use it? So our activities should be designed in such a way that the learners, their role will be now to use the skills that they've acquired in a new situation or a real life context. And this one is very key as you're developing your activities. So what is the role of the teacher in this case? We have to ensure that we give these learners practical tasks where they can apply these skills, where they can apply their knowledge learned in real life situations. Then in analysis, our learners are expected to reflect, they're expected to critique, they're expected to draw conclusions. This column for learners' role is not conclusive, okay? So there are other things that the learners can do, but this is just to give you a highlight of what happens at that point. And the role of the teacher under the analysis phase is to lead the reflection and the assessment to see whether the learners are picking it. The question in this phase we should be asking ourselves is, why does this matter? Why are we doing this activity? Why is it important? That's what the analysis is, and they can also recognize patterns. Now we're going to go straight into a sample activity for where we have DEAA. And dear people who are listening today, DEAA is something I believe many of us have been doing, but we need to be focused and mindful that we're doing it the right way and it's achieving what it's intended to do. So my activity I want to talk about today is based on motion and road safety. So this will be a lot on physics, but I'm going to bring in also integration of other aspects, other subjects, as we'll see later. So I could start the lesson by showing the learners this picture and asking them to study the picture and talk about the photo below. So what I'm doing is giving these learners this image or showing this image to them, and I ask them to study, just talk about it. This assuming this is the beginning of the lesson. And so I expect them to say many things about the road, about the cars, about the landscape, the terrain, about the markings on the road, even the weather. If they want, they can talk about that. But what is important for me as the teacher who has created this activity and given them this photo, I need to know in the DEAA, that is discovery, explanation, analysis, and application, which of these phases would be most applicable when the learners are studying this picture? And that's a question I would want you to ask yourselves. But if you think about it deeply and realize the responses that the learners will give you will be based on an in-depth analysis of this picture. So they'll look at the bus. Is the bus overtaking? What are the other cars doing? What is the structure of the road? Do we see a bend there? So they should give you responses, but those responses will have been as a result of analysis of this picture. So in terms of DEAA, by giving them this picture, I am using the phase of analysis. The learners are using the phase of analysis to come up with their responses. That is, they look at the different features of the photo and come and tell us about this photo. So for this first activity, if I'm to design it, me as a teacher in my head, I will know that this one here, what the focus is analysis. But I wouldn't just stop there. I can continue to ask them something like this, as you see before. At the beginning, I just gave them the picture and told them to study it and talk about it. But now I'm saying, as you study the photo, write questions that come to your mind using each of these words. Again, I'm going to repeat it. As you study the photo, write questions that come to your mind using each of these words. So I want the learners to write what, a question that begins with what, a question that begins with where, whom, when, why, how. What does this do to the learners? It also is igniting, and remember the role of a teacher is a facilitator in this. I'm igniting other phases of our DEAA again by providing these questions. So the learners will develop those questions, they'll write them down, and I'm going further ahead to say, discuss each of these questions that you've written down. So they will discuss, and in those discussions, then I expect some learners to discover something new based on the questions they've written and the discussions they're having, and I expect some form of explanation. Let us take, for example, if someone says, what is the meaning of the road markings? That would be one of the learners asking this question. Maybe within that pair or within that group, there is a learner who actually knows what these road markings are. Then they would explain to their colleague, they explain to their fellow student that the road markings we have, those ones which are broken lines, and those are continuous lines. Broken line means this, continuous line means this. The person who did not know will now discover what the meaning of those road signs are. And that's what we mean by when we say developing an activities that have discovery, explanation, analysis, and application. So from these different questions, what, why, where, how, when, for each of the questions that the learners develop, and as I discuss, most likely one of the learners, some of them will be discovering and others will be explaining. And that is very important in a learner-centered lesson because the learners will be acquiring different skills as we're going to see as we move ahead. So using an image, something that you'd call as simple as this, but you, the teacher, when you're preparing a lesson at the back of your mind, if you know what you're targeting, then it becomes a very, very powerful tool. And whatever you develop in your activity, the questions you act in your activity will determine how many phases of the DEAA the learners will go through. In this case, the teacher is the one who gave the learners these questions, but you can even provoke them to ask their own questions basing on the photo that you've provided. And once they do that one, then you're making some of them discover certain things, others are going to explain as they give answers to these different questions. So if I was to talk about motion and road safety as my activity, the first part of that lesson or the first part of the activity, I could give them a picture like this, and then they start explaining a lot of things. I will still refer to this picture later on, or we'll talk about it later on in the main lesson activity, but this one is to provoke them. And as you can see, just by using this picture, we have used three of the four phases of DEAA. So the learners have analyzed, the learners have discovered, the learners have explained. Now, if we're to continue this lesson again, it's important that why are we doing this DEAA? As I said, our curriculum is competence-based. Competence-based means our learners are acquiring skills. These skills are the ones that they use to be able to do something. It could be cognitively or physically, but they'll be doing something and they require those skills. So for this activity, the core skills, again, that these learners would use are communication. That means they are talking about the picture, they are asking questions, they're using their visual, and they're saying what they need to say. Again, in order to be able to do the analysis, they need some real critical thinking to look at the image, see if they're identical patterns, put them together, and that requires critical thinking, which enables the analysis to take place. So also as teachers, as we develop our learning activities that are based on DEAA, we shouldn't forget the skills that we're trying to develop when we're doing this. These skills, as a teacher, you need to look out for them and you need to assess whether the skills are being acquired. In today's presentation, I will not talk about assessment. Someone else will talk about it later, but it is important for you as you develop your lesson to always think, how am I going to find out whether these learners are analyzing, are they discovering, explaining, are they communicating or thinking critically? It's a very important thing. Now, this table is summarizing what I had talked about up there, but with a finer detail. We have the phase, a key question or statement, the learner role, the teacher role. As I had said, as they're studying the photo, what are they doing? They're doing the analysis phase. And how are they going to do it? The role is to make critical observations. They're going to look at the road markings. Maybe they look at the types of the cars in the picture, the position of the cars, which one is on which side, which one is on the other side. They're going to look at the terrain, the landscape, etc. Those critical observations means that they are analyzing the photo. And from those observations, they can draw conclusions. That means they can see things like overtaking. Is the person overtaking the right position? How is the road? Is it a blind spot? Is it a right place to overtake? Is there a bend ahead? They will be able to draw those conclusions based on the observations they have made. But when you combine those two, that means these learners are carrying out what would call analysis. And then what is the teacher's role is to verify whether their observations or conclusions are correct, so to say. But in a picture can mean so many things. So as you verify, maybe the role of the teacher is just to make sure the observations are not straying away from our topic, which is motion and road safety. Again, we had said when you provide them with the other questions, that's where you ask them to write and discuss the questions. They will do two things. They will both discover and they can explain. How are they going to discover? They will talk about the different, based on their discussions, and they look at the picture, they will see which driver was supposed to do what. So they're exploring different options, and that means some of the learners will discover that, hey, when this person is on this side, maybe someone else should only overtake under the circumstances, and so on and so forth. So they are going to discuss and come up with the different options that the drivers have as they are using the road. They should also make predictions, and those predictions are a different form of discovery. So they could also ask themselves, what is the possibility of an accident? Who is most likely to cause an accident? Which of the drivers is driving at a safe distance? All those things come out, and that is the discovery phase that we're talking about. What is the teacher's role in this phase is asking the probing questions. The teacher might not only stop at those questions they had put in the activity, they can keep provoking the learners and asking them probing questions, provide them with clues. Remember, our intention, as I told you at the beginning, a teacher is not to tell the learners what to do. A teacher is not going to give them the answers. Our role of the teacher is to help these learners learn these things on their own. Then again, in that explanation, they need to explain what are the road markings, what do they mean. They should give you reasoning on the safe driving speeds based on the knowledge they're seeing. They can connect the picture to knowledge they have studied before, maybe in primary school or maybe when they are using the road, knowledge about traffic rules and everything. So the learners should explain their prior knowledge, information that they had before when they're looking at the image. And again, the teacher's role is to guide the conceptual understanding of that image. So when we talk about DEAA, these are the things that you need to put into consideration and ensure that they're happening. I am sure teachers have provided learners with images. Maybe they just look through them, ask one or two questions and move on quickly. No, what we're saying is allow these processes to happen because that is where the learning takes place. And as you've seen from our image, when we provided the learner with this image, the learners started with analysis. They did not start with discovery. So the DEAA cycle is not linear, it's non-linear. It can start from any point. They can start from analysis, they can start from explanation, they can start from discovery. It just depends on how the activity has been presented. In our case, this activity, the first phase they went through was analysis, which someone might think is a high phase, but yes, when they look at the photo, they're doing analysis, but through the analysis, then eventually they led into discovery and which led into explanation. So the DEAA cycle and the DEAA phases are non-linear. This is very, very important. We should not say in my activity, they always must start with discovery, then they follow with explanation. No, it can be non-linear. It just depends on how the activity has been presented. So again, assuming as the teacher is going to make follow-up activities, again, these are a bit summarized, but they will help you to understand the whole concept. So basing on the photo, I would go ahead, maybe give them a ball or a toy to roll down a slope. And that slope has an obstacle. They should record the distance the ball has taken, the time it has taken to stop, what caused it to stop, and therefore the teacher, if it is a physics lesson, would bring in concepts of the subject now. So what is happening as you go down, momentum, motion, the forces that are involved there, the friction, those are things that are going to happen at that point. And these learners will be discovering those different things. So our follow-up activity should be in line with what the learners have been exposed to, and they're going to learn certain things. Again, it's always important for us not to forget the skills. So observation is a subject-specific skill. Subject, here you're seeing the word SS in brackets. That's subject-specific, meaning that this skill is a science skill. Observation is one of the important science skills as a subject. As they do this activity, we expect teamwork. Some teachers will be, some of the learners will be recording the distance, others will be taking the time, others will be explaining. So there's a lot of teamwork involved in order to come up with one group thing. Then we expect the learners to ask questions. That's part of communication. All these are generic skills. Then still in the same, what you'd call the STEM lesson, the learners should be able to explain. Based on the little experiment they did using a ball or a toy, they should explain the forces acting on the object, friction, etc. But we can push it further. If you see here, I wrote something like, how does the brain and muscles respond when trying to respond to movement? I am now integrating concepts of biology. Why? Because our topic is motion and road safety. These cars are being driven by human beings. And if the driver is to make a decision based on how fast he's moving, there has to be the coordination from the objects that he's seeing, the message being sent to his brain, then interpreted that moves into his leg to be able to step on the brake. Those are now biological processes. And so it would be good for the learner to integrate the motion of the bus, that is the object, to biological processes that take place for the driver to be able to drive safely. And so in a physics lesson, I would encourage the teacher now to integrate those concepts of biology, and vice versa. The biology teacher can also integrate those concepts, because in order to prevent a road accident, you need a combination of these subjects. So that would be good to be involved in the lesson, and in explanation, the learners should be able to explain those different things. This activity also asks them to create a diagram showing how the nervous system controls the reaction. This becomes creativity. The diagram it will be up to the learners to decide what to do, and those are the skills that they'll be coming up with. The learners can go ahead and also conduct another test where one of them holds a ruler and drops it, and the other individual is supposed to catch that ruler. This one can be timed. They can also come up with formula to calculate the rate of the reaction. That is the time from which the other learner dropped the ruler to the time when this one held it. Again, we're still talking about motion, and these activities are building up for the learners to eventually come up to what we want to use as our real life situation, which will be road safety. So they can use different formula in physics. They have the different formula, come up with graphs, compare the results, and then explain. All that one, they're applying now the knowledge that they have. Okay, so when they use those formulas, they do the graphs, etc., they're applying the knowledge. After coming up with all those graphs, they should be able to suggest practical road safety measures. For example, how to avoid overspeeding, what distractions they should avoid if they're driving under the influence of drugs, or if they're tired, etc. All those things should be coming up, and that is application of the knowledge now. During application, as you can see under the skills, there are a lot of skills. There's measurement, subject skills, numeracy, subject skills, data analysis, subject skills, critical thinking, problem solving, collaboration. So all those are different skills that the learners are acquiring when they're in that phase, when they're in the application phase. And again, like I said, today I'm not talking about assessment, but you as a teacher should assess whether these skills are being acquired. Then analysis, again, when they've done all their experiments and they've done their results, they should be able to explain why accidents occur and propose science-based solutions basing on the picture that they started with, based on the experiments, the small experiments they've done in the class. And then they should also propose how what they have done should reduce accidents on the road and therefore improve road safety. Again, we have different skills, but this time in the analysis phase, we are bringing in two things: responsibility, which is a value, and empathy, which is also a value. These are very important. So a person who is using the road, whether you're walking or you're on a border or you're driving, those values are very, very important, because you have to be responsible for the people you have, for yourself, for the people you're driving, and other road users. And therefore, we need to use our activities in class to build these we need to use activities in class to build up the values and attitudes. So here at this point in the analysis, I think even in the application, we should have questions that we develop that help these learners to know about responsibility, to know about empathy, that is care for others, and care for other road users. So those are the 4 phases: discovery, explanation, application, analysis. Each of those phases has activities in them. Discovery, here they are rolling the ball down a slope or a toy car, etc. Here they have an activity of a discussion about how these toys and these balls roll down the slope, and also how the brain and the muscles work. Application, now they're doing their mathematical, the physics calculations, the numeracy, drawing graphs, comparing results. That's the activity. But within that activity, they're applying the knowledge that they have. Then as they interpret the experimental results, they're analyzing the situation that they did and also coming up with solutions, whereby in those solutions, we expect them also to show values that they've acquired in that process. So that is what DEAA is about. And I've mentioned it again, and I'll mention it again. DEAA and assessment, formative assessment, go hand in hand, meaning that as the learners are discovering, explaining, analyzing, applying, you as a teacher need to assess whether these things are happening. And how do you do that? It's through conversation, observation, and product. This one will be for another presentation, I think next week or the following one. But formative assessment, as we all know, is assessment for learning, and this is a core for learner-centered teaching or learning. That means if the learners are to discover, explain, apply, and analyze, we need to use formative assessment. You need to assess them to see whether this learning is actually taking place. And if we all use DEAA, I'll go back to the beginning of our slide. Here, it's learner-centeredness, okay? The one of the best ways to make your lesson learner-centered is you need to ask yourself those 4 things: where the learner is going to discover, where they're going to explain, where they're going to analyze, where they're going to apply. If you can do that as you develop your activities, automatically a lesson will be learner-centered. I thank you for listening to my presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jude Agaba, for this wonderful presentation you've given to us. You know, it has been a very serious challenge that we have been having, because we know that in our classes we must have activities for our lessons to succeed, and designing such activities has always been a challenge. The DEAA is mentioned, but many did not understand. I am very sure this evening we have picked something from it. However, I wanted to pose this question. I don't know. In your presentation, I seem to have understood that for the DEAA to be incorporated in the teaching learning activity, the nature of questioning is very, very important. The kind of question you ask would guide on or helping the learner to either discover or to bring the explanation part of it. Am I on the right track?
Yeah, yes, you are. You are very, very right. Because, like I said, if I just put the image and said, what do you see? Some will tell you we see trees, we see bushes, we see grass, which is what they're saying. Okay. But that's not the aim, or that's not the intention of your lesson. So by giving more probing questions and referring them to the topic of the day, because if our topic is motion and road safety, then they need to give you responses that are talking about motion, talking about road safety. So the type of questions you probe with are very important for those phases to come out. They're very, very important. So you're correct. That's correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Jude. Members, I am very sure all of us have been attentive, and this is the right time for us to share. I mean, you can ask questions, you can share, you can add or subtract. It's a sharing session, and I would like to warmly welcome each and every one of us to participate in this session. Please, you raise up your hand and have an opportunity to share. I am seeing Mr. Kello's thumb is up. Thank you very much, Jacob. Jacob is the Deputy National Treasurer of the Union. Thank you for always being there. Members, you're welcome to giving an input to this session. I'm seeing in the comment box, good work, Mr. Agaba. Thank you for the elaboration. Someone is asking, could you share the slide here on the chat? I think we have UPSTU forum on YouTube. Please, you can check on YouTube, upstu.org. Mr. Mukalele, you'll clarify on this at a certain point to guide these who need slides. All the presentations we make here are always posted. So there you can obtain these slides that you need. Someone is grateful that he has clearly revitalized his lesson plan. I think we have done that. Thank you. Members, you're welcome to reacting.
You see Janet's hand is up.
Oh, Janet, you're most welcome. Madam Janet, unmute yourself and ask the question or the statement you'd like to have. Welcome. You'd get to the reaction. Yes, dear, welcome.
I was looking for where to unmute from.
Thank you,
I would like to start by thanking Mr. Agaba so much. I feel so educated this evening, and such a blessing to have joined the ProDev hour again today. I come from a development place. I'm not a teacher by profession, so my question might be very.
Yes.
may not even make sense. Maybe it's already even work in progress. So I'm you know, and it is very related to the question that I think Betty asked. When we were growing up,
you asked the question.
Yes. Okay. When we were growing up, it was not common for children to ask questions. I think this is one place I'm appreciating really the competency-based education, because it teaches children to ask constructive questions right from the class and the activities that are being they're undertaking. Now my question is, if as a teacher, because it looks to me that even the teacher really has to do a lot of prior thinking to come up with an activity that can be explored and all these areas of the day are exhausted. I am wondering, is the NCDC supporting with developing resources for teachers? Because not all teachers may have the capacity to be able to develop, to come up with very creative activities that can explore all these areas of developing competencies. All the dare to say. So that is that support in place so that at least if for every subject they can push out some activities, a few activities that even if a teacher who is down there and cannot come up with a creative activity, they know that they can go to for under this topic of road safety. They have an activity that they can start from while they also think about how they can come up with their own activity. This is my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Janet. I am very sure Mr. Agaba would first note them down, and we have a few more observations, and he can come on board. May I welcome Mr. Kakuru Gaviria? Welcome.
Thank you. It's Kakuru Javira. From Karamoja. Yes, yeah. Thank you so much, Bwana Judy. And it's also a pleasure. I had Janet really ask so wonderful questions. On the platform, I had inquired at the possibility of Ndugu Judy sharing with us the slide. Possibly, you know, when you have it in PowerPoint, it is either to share it with your other colleagues, possibly. That's why one reason I was requesting for it. Otherwise, I just wanted to appreciate Ndugu Jude Agaba for sparing his time and really take us through this DEAA approaches. Thank you so much, Ndugu Agaba. Thank you. And thank you, Janet, for asking those wonderful questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for that great observation. Can I welcome Mr. Katumwesije Abat?
Hello.
Yes.
Are you getting me?
Yes, please, sir.
Are you getting me?
Please,
Okay.
very clear.
Good evening to you all.
Good evening.
Okay. I highly appreciate for the work well done by my colleague. It's not my first time, and I really appreciate his efforts for developing the new curriculum to this level. My concern is how to level, because when you look at the curriculum, this all level it has been streamlined as far as possible, and the teachers at least are having a basis what to and what not. So how I would this it at least first of all, because day and the textbooks are yet when you relate the syllabus to the textbook content by learners. So as fast that we have those 11 books so that M5s can also be on level with certain limits. And I also appreciate for the work done by UPSTU in lifting the program, which is the new and education system. Thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you very much, Abat. On my side, I felt the network was disturbing you. I wonder if Mr. Jude understood the concerns. May I welcome him to respond to a few of this?
Thank you for the questions and submissions. Yeah, I'll begin with Janet. Janet, for your observation. NCDC developing resources. We have not developed resources directly to give teachers to use. What we do and what we have continued to do is support the publishers who make textbooks. We guide them on how best to produce those textbooks, and those textbooks are the ones which have the learners' activities. But now, which is different from before, is that each textbook must come out with a teacher's guide, and that is the resource that the teachers use. So NCDC as an institution does not develop resources directly for teachers. What we do is make the syllabuses, but the people who make the textbooks are obliged to develop a teacher's guide, which is a resource that the teacher must use. What NCDC has done and continues to do is, for example, in the syllabus, we try as much as possible also to give the teachers guidance. And so when you look at the syllabus, there's always a middle column. The middle and the last column of the detailed syllabus gives suggested learning and teaching activities and suggested sample strategies. Those are columns or sections that give guidance to the teacher on what to do in class. But separately, we also are encouraging our teachers to, they say, you cannot give what you don't have. What are we trying to say? We need, as teachers, to develop our skills ourselves, the creativity, the innovation, the problem solving, the critical thinking. We need to develop those skills within ourselves. And that is best by a teacher going out there and saying, how can I teach this lesson differently from the way I've been teaching it? What are the different ways I can do? How do I make it engaging? How do I ensure that DEAA is achieved? If a teacher does that on their own and they continue doing it, then you become an effective teacher because you know what is in your environment. What do I mean? For example, the example I used today is a tarmac road where there are buses and cars, but there are village schools where there are no tarmac roads. So when you use an example like that, the learners do not relate to it. So if I was still to use motion, and I don't know if it would be road safety in the villages, but I would have to choose something that is applicable to the learners in their setting. And so we encourage the teachers to do this on their own. Relying on the resources that are provided kind of impedes your ability to be creative. So much as the resources are given to support you as teachers, but we encourage you to go out there, be creative, use the things in your environment to build your lesson. So to answer Janet, the resources we develop as a curriculum center are the syllabuses, which give teachers guidance, but also we give guidance to the publishers. When they're developing textbooks, they must provide the teacher's guide. And in that teacher's guide, we expect to have things like the ones I've presented right now. Mr. Javira Kakuru, good to hear from you. I remember you from Karamoja. We've worked together. Yes, I'll work together with UPSTU to make sure that you get these slides and you can share them and use them in your different schools. Katu Mwesije was not very clear, but I think his question was more to do with A-level and provision of textbooks to help in the teaching and learning process. I hope I got that well. Yes, the current A-level do not have textbooks developed. And the reason is that this was not totally, it's a transition curriculum. And so we do not have the textbooks in place, but in the development of this curriculum that you're using it, S5, we took time to carefully see that whatever is in that syllabus, the teachers can teach using the existing resources, the existing textbooks. So for the different subjects that are in place, teachers can use the existing textbooks to actually teach this syllabus that we have. But the difference is what we're doing now and this is my opportunity to thank UPSTU. The difference is that the textbooks that are existing are not designed as learner-centered books. However, I can pick something from that textbook and convert it into a learner-centered lesson with the DEAA approaches. And that's why I thank UPSTU for bringing this on board. Platforms and things like this empower the teachers with the skills to be able to come up with their own learner-centered activities that have DEAA approaches, even in S5 and S6 next year. So what I would say to Mr. Tatu Mwesigye is, whatever subject you're teaching, maybe you're teaching, let me use the example, I know, if you're teaching biology and you have robots in your in your school, if you're going to teach a concept that is in the curriculum on C3 and C4 plants, you as a teacher know that within our environment, there are C3 and C4 plants. You can design a learner-centered activity for the learners to study about those plants, but they'll use robots as a resource to get the information and knowledge that they need, and they'll still come out as good. So for this current curriculum in A-level, there are no books, but the books that we have in our libraries, the books that we used when we were in school, can be used to teach the curriculum. Only difference is the teacher has to be now creative and innovative to change the lessons into learner-centered lessons that have the DEAA approaches, like we have learned today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jude. So that means that the DEAA strategies we're using at O level is the same that we must use at A level. Could I be very sure that the methodologies of or the approaches we have at A level or senior 5, for example, this time we're in senior 5, are almost or exactly the same as the methodologies we have at O level?
Yes, Betty, it cuts across. It should start from nursery school up to PhD. It is nothing like saying we should use learner-centered methods at all levels of learning and enable the learners to discover, explain, analyze, and apply the knowledge that they have used. Once we do that at all levels in our homes, when we're digging our farms, we should be using DEAA approaches everywhere. It's not restricted to lower secondary.
Thank you. Why
Yes.
I ask is that many teachers still think that maybe there's going to be another methodology to be used for A level since there are no textbooks. But at least I've picked from you that the textbooks we have are only to help us get the concepts, but the activities we use for bringing the different concepts to the learners should be activities that are learner-centered and should be having the DEAA strategy.
Exactly.
I think this evening I'm walking out very happy that I've understood that.
And if you look at the A-level syllabus, also the middle column, suggested learning activities, teachers should focus on that one. It provides you with possible activities that you can use in class for your subject. So if you can use that column and the textbooks, you're good to go.
Use that column, use the textbooks, also use the knowledge we are sharing today to create more activities that probably is not provided there.
Exactly.
Oh, thank you very much. Members, I don't know, is there somebody else still with some burning issue to ask? Mr. Jude is here to give us inputs. And we had said we were sharing, maybe someone has something. I've already seen Mr. Kizito Mukalazi. Welcome, please.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Jude. When I saw him on the, let me call it a poster, I was very excited. And I decided to have a working supper. Now, it is very good that Mr. Jude has brought this DEAA innovation in our pedagogy of the competence-based. The other observation, product and conversation, the triangulation, you talked about it brief at the end of your slide. Appeared to be people asking, how best can I make it learner-centered? They feel, because these learners are very wise, they keep on asking you questions when you are in the class. And at the end of the day, we're the one giving information. They keep on asking. I think they got it as a trick. How can we get information from a teacher? You try to trick them to get information themselves. You ask them some question, they fire them back to you. But when I followed the idea, I think it's a very good innovation. It's a good way of handling. I think if they are to ask questions, they will be in line with, for instance, application, if we are at that level. But they will not be asking questions to connive you, to give them information, so that for them they just relax and just wait for what a teacher will give them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
brother.
Kifito, for that observation. I have seen Mr. Kelly Jacob's hand is up. Jacob, you're most welcome. Yes, Jacob. Okay.
Yes, Betty, can you hear me?
Yes, dear, you're very clear.
Now I'm supplementing on Mr. Agaba's answer to Janet. I'm comforting Janet. Janet studied during when the teacher was the center of the lesson. That's why that time she could not ask constructive question. Now we are in a new era whereby the learner is the center of the lesson and can both ask constructive and even destructive question. We are ready for all those questions. Then secondly, I'm reminding the teachers that some people who are still we should now transition to the new paradigm about the new curriculum, whereby we should no longer give notes. We should now be able to make the learners make their own notes from our lesson. Then on Mr. Agaba's assertion of the scenario he brought, we can even bring that scenario at a rural level, whereby we can have a village path where there are ant hill and bicycles going on, there's a motorcycle, and the pedestrians are there, and still we still bring the same idea in the village. Where we don't have tarmac, we can redesign the scenario and bring it to the village path and still convey the same message to the child in the village where there are no tarmac road. I think that is my addition to what has been put forward. Thank you very much. Hello?
Thank you very much, Jacob. Yes, dear. Thank you very much for this supplement you have given. Members, may I welcome Mr. Jude, probably to give his concluding remarks for today's session. Jude, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you, brother, for listening, and we apologize for interrupting your supper. Yes, the learners asking questions. For me, when I hear that, I get very happy and excited, because it means that they want to learn. Now, the difference or the key thing is, how will the teacher handle it? And you've said, now with the DEAA and everything, if we have focused our activities well, we can redirect those questions for the learners to find the answers within the activities that they are doing. So what we'll do is move beyond just responding to if they ask you, what is this? You shouldn't give the answer direct. Our activities should be designed so that as they ask those questions, you push them to do the activity to get the answers that they are looking for. Mr. Jacob Okello, thank you very much. You have done it well and given us a wonderful example of what can be done in the village settings. Thank you for supporting us. Janet in the chat had asked about engaging more teachers. Yes, it is on platforms like this that the engagements take place, and I will not stop thanking UPSTU for creating these pro-development hours. NCDC might not be everywhere, but with unions like this, they are doing part of our NCDC work and the work of the Ministry of Education. So we thank them so much. There are other groups of education institutions that also carry out the teacher trainings. Those ones can be used as platforms. So what can be done to mobilize teachers is to let them know. So teachers have very many platforms that they use as subjects, at subject level, at school level. If we can keep sending this information to those different platforms, then the teachers should be able to attend engagements like this. Yes, I will conclude by saying I'm very happy to have been part of this, and I'll always be willing to share what I have and what I know with you teachers, with UPSTU, and any organization that is promoting our curriculum, both at lower secondary and upper secondary level. Further engagements and inquiries, the platform can get my contact through the UPSTU Secretariat, and I share what knowledge and information that I have. I'm glad to do that at any moment, and I wish you the best of the night. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Agaba, for giving us this values that we have received this evening. I want to thank also all those who have given their time for this program. As I remind everyone that Uganda Professional Science Teachers Union is committed to give continuous professional development to its members. That is why every Thursdays from 8 to 9 p.m. we bring different topics that we feel are good for our members. Probably the mindset is an issue. People still think that for you to log on to this Zoom, somebody should be able to buy for you data. And then probably also the time we have is too limited. For instance, I'm a suckling mother. If I'm suckling, I should not now be, getting onto Zoom because I'm still suckling. I want us to keep on. And as Mr. Jude has advised, we have our different fora. Wherever you see the flyers for you, you send to all those forums. Let those ones who will be motivated come on, and we shall continue. I know slowly by slowly, everybody will join us, and we shall form a very big force. We are already here to stay, and we are committed to seeing that everybody benefits this program. Also, every presentations that we make already is there logged on onto our YouTube channel. If you just get on there, UPSTU, you'll always get all the topics that has been covered. So you can always review it, rewind it, and listen to it, and then you form part of it. So I want to thank everybody for this participation this Thursday. We are yet also to receive a very good program for next Thursday, which will be shared during the course of the week. Our collaboration with the National Curriculum Development Center is guaranteed that at least every month we shall have at least 2 presentations from National Curriculum Development Center. So members, let us keep disseminating this so that at least we attract many people to benefit from the program. I thank you all, and I pray that God will give us a blessed night. Good night, everyone. See you next Thursday.